All right. Revelation chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. This is Pastor Scott Cruz, and we're picking up our study here. To the angel of the church of Ephesus write, these are the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks among the 7 golden lampstands. I know your deeds, your hard work, and your perseverance. And I know that you cannot tolerate wicked people, that you have tested those who claim to be apostles but are not, and have found them false. You have preserved and have endured the hardships for my name and have not grown weary. And so good stuff, right? Good news for the Ephesians. They were, if you remember from our intro, they were the hub. They were the place where Paul lived when he planted all of the other churches. And so we have an image here of Jesus walking among the golden lampstands. He knows them. He feels their pain. He knows exactly what they're going through. The 7 stars in his hand representing the 7 churches. Others say it represents the leaders of those churches, okay? And they are in his hand. That means that he is under their protection. And he said, how could he be under their protection? I mean, aren't they going through all kinds of horrible, hard times? Well, Jesus said they persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. And so his protection, as we see over and over here again, isn't a protection from pain in this world. It just isn't. You can wish it was, but it just is not. Under his direction, he's leading them. He's knowing them. He knows what's going on in their lives. He cares about them. He hurts with them. And we also have an image here watching the lampstands of a watchman. He's inspecting the churches, and his purpose is to encourage, preserve, and challenge the churches. Now, I'm not going to play this here, but if you go on the MindMap, this is a very well done video from about Ephesus, and it shows some of the work. I'm not familiar with their ministry, but I listened to the video, and everything he said was in line with everything I've ever learned. And so I'm not endorsing it because I don't know them real well, but you really get a sense for the city of Ephesus. And so take a minute and watch that video. Don't forget, you can always speed up YouTube videos if you want to. But the religion that was happening in Ephesus, Artemis, or the Roman Diana. And it was the temple was huge. It was a wonder of the world. 425 by 225 by 60 feet tall. And they employed thousands of priests and thousands of temple prostitutes. What a way to get your church to grow, huh? Thousands of temple, because she was the goddess of fertility. And so that was part of the worship. There was also in Ephesus, and we'll hear more about this as we move along because it was a real common thing during this time, an imperial cult where Caesar is God. And the Caesar at that time declared himself God, and he really played into it. He was declaring it. And so there were clashes between the Christians and the Romans. And actually, he officially gave himself the title Dominus et Deus. And so he was said, I am God, basically. It was also a rich commercial hub. One of their major exports were idols, because they had so many idols in their city. That was a major deal. And so they sold a lot of stuff and a lot of idols. Now, the church in Ephesus, there's some things we can know about that. There's already, even at this time, many false teachers. We find out in Corinthians, there was false teachers running around. For such people are false prophets, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising then that if his servants have also masqueraded as servants of righteousness, their end will be what their actions deserve. So false teachers were a problem even then, and they made false claims. They said they were apostles, and actually that was a bigger deal back then. We'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to steal my thunder. The Ephesians did not tolerate these guys. They knew they had Paul right in their midst for a long time as he was evangelizing all of these other places. They had him right there, and so they remained pure in their doctrine, and they were taught by true apostles. Apostles means that Jesus knew him personally. At least at this time it did, because they were the ones writing the scripture. They were writing what would soon become part of the canon. And one of the requirements of the canon was that you had to know Jesus personally, okay? You had first generation knowing Jesus. And so John taught how to avoid false teachers in 1 John. Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they're from God, because there are many false prophets. And we'll skip down a little bit. They acknowledge Every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. So anybody that watered down the deity of Jesus, they are false teachers. And that was already happening at this time. This is the period of the Gnostic Gospels. They're beginning to, they would really get started in a few years. But there was already beginning to be some false things written by people who had never met Jesus. And that was a big deal. And they railed against that. And so no third person accounts for scripture. Okay. No canon, no scripture, no Bible, unless it was written by somebody who saw it firsthand. And so there is Ephesus verses 1 through 3. Lord bless you.